Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer Lindgren. Tonight, a look at the efforts for police reform in Ithaca. As Big Fox's Matt Kleindens tells us, the new plan presented to the City Council would drastically reshape Ithaca's police department.
That's right, Jennifer. Members of the Reimagining Public Safety Committee presented their ideas to the Ithaca City Council last night. One member believes this plan will better emphasize safety and better utilize law enforcement.
We'll now move into our special presentation.
Last night, the Working Group for Ithaca's Reimagining Public Safety presented new ideas to the City Council. The plan calls for a complete restructuring of the Ithaca Police Department.
We're trying to set up an infrastructure that will grow with time in terms of providing the appropriate response.
According to the plan, the police department would be replaced with a new agency called the Department of Community Safety. That department would have two divisions of first responders, one being the Division of Police with officers already on staff, and the other being an unarmed Division of Community Solutions.
It's more or less a quality of life call types where we would have community responders action and be responsible for these call types.
The working group also emphasized the need for officers to learn de-escalation tactics and alternative use of force as part of their training. Karen Yearwood added the importance of evaluating officers working for this new department.
We have to do all of that to make sure we are having the right individuals serving this community, because this is public service.
The council is set to create a task force to look into implementing the plan. Matt Kleindens, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
Pennsylvania's state system of higher education approved a plan to merge Mansfield University with two other schools. The system's Board of Governors voted unanimously to merge Mansfield with Bloomsburg and Lock Haven universities. The combined schools will be known as the Commonwealth University of Pennsylvania. Despite the vote, previous names and logos will still be used for sports teams and on diplomas. The merger is seen as a way to offer more academic programs to students at the three schools. The Senior Games are returning to Chemung County this spring. This year's games will include events like softball, pickleball, golf, bocce, shuffleboard, bowling, and cornhole. The events are scheduled to take place between May 23rd and June 16th at locations throughout the county. Residents who are interested in participating can register on the Chemung County website. You must be 50 and over to compete. Now here's the latest from the crisis in Ukraine. Russia ramps up its assault on key Ukrainian cities as the Kremlin tries to box in Ukraine's capital. Jonathan Hunt has the story.
Russian forces have now taken control of their first city in Ukraine. It is the city of Kherson. It sits in the south of the country. The mayor of Kherson says that Russian forces have arrived at City Hall, where he says he met with them and asked them not to shoot civilians and to give the people of Kherson the time to clear bodies from the streets of that city. Russian troops are also pressing their advantage around the other southern city of Mariupol, and we are told are heading towards the critical southern port of Odessa on the Black Sea via warships. If they take Odessa and Mariupol, they will control pretty much the entirety of southern Ukraine, giving themselves a very important land bridge for supplies from Russia and giving themselves a direct route north to further encircle Kyiv and put further pressure on the military in the capital and, of course, on the government of President Zelensky, although the president says Ukrainians will never give up.
We have nothing to lose but our own freedom besides our own dignity. This is our greatest treasure.
In the meantime, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees says the humanitarian crisis is worsening by the day. They report that more than 1 million people have now fled Ukraine, looking for safety in the neighboring countries of Moldova, Romania, and most of all in Poland. In Lviv, Ukraine, Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
The cost of gas and oil is skyrocketing to new record highs this month, and we're all feeling it at the pump. Jerry Willis has more on what's causing this rise and how long the upward trend could last.
I mean, I'm spending a lot of money just on gas alone. And then for this to go up the way it's been going up, it is, it hurts. It hurts a lot.
Americans can expect more pain at the pump as rising oil and gas costs continue to surge across the U.S. The higher prices forcing many people to cut back. The current national average is $3.73 a gallon. That's up 31 cents from February and roughly $1 more than it was this time a year ago. In places like California and Oregon, drivers experiencing sticker shock.
I'm having to pay $5.50 some places.
We wanted to see if prices were going to drop tomorrow. That feels just too expensive right now.
Those using oil to heat up their homes will also see a rise in their bill. Oil prices surged another $7 a barrel on Wednesday. The price of Brent crude rose to nearly $113 a barrel, the highest level since 2014. The rise attributed to the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. Russia is a major exporter of crude oil, accounting for about 12% of the world's supply.
The big factor is we have a war in Europe involving one of the world's largest oil producers. The markets are very nervous about how long will this invasion last, what will the outcome be, will Russia pull its oil from Europe in response to harsh sanctions from the West.
The spike in oil and gas prices unlikely to ease anytime soon as the war intensifies. In New York, Jerry Willis, Fox News.
Your complete forecast is coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
All right, thanks again for checking in as we take a look at your local forecast. And it definitely was a quieter day today across the region, although a little bit on the cooler side compared to where we were earlier this week. The view from Binghamton at the National Weather Service there showing a mixture of clouds and sun, and that was the case across the region. Waking up to a chilly 8-degree temperature in Elmira Corning on Friday morning. Our average overnight low is 20, 6:36 is sunrise, and then 35 for the daytime highs. So again, a bit on the cool side. Average for this time of the year is 41, and your sunset is at 5 p.m. Again, keep in mind that we're about a week away from that time change. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday. We spring ahead 1 hour as we enter daylight saving time. So pretty cool and quiet tonight. Sunnier skies into your Friday. Warmer temperatures this upcoming weekend, and then some rain will develop later Saturday into Sunday. And we're going to have a couple of surges of decent precipitation. Rain continues Monday, but we actually see a chance of some snowfall later Monday into Tuesday. And some of that could actually accumulate. So we're going to be watching that very closely. But here's that precipitation potential and outlook through the middle part of next week. This would take care of all the rain and the snow if there's any mix, melted down into the liquid fashion. And we're closing in on maybe 3/4 of an inch to nearly an inch near the Elmira Corning area, south into Pennsylvania, some 1 inch plus amounts, and then a little bit lighter tallies farther north. Again, some of that could be in the form of snow late Monday into Tuesday. We're still several days away, and we're going to monitor that and see how things pan out. But overnight tonight, again, pretty quiet. We'll talk about some clear skies into your Friday morning with, again, some chilly temperatures and then sunshine through the afternoon. Now, as we head into the overnight hours of Friday and Saturday, notice that the clouds will start to thicken up as that warmer air begins to settle on into the region. We're at 8 degrees tomorrow morning. Average overnight low is 20. North to northwesterly winds a little bit on the breezy side, up to near 10 or 15 miles per hour. So you add that to the single-digit temperatures, and it will feel even cooler, maybe even into the lower single digits. Some isolated sub-zero feels like temps in the morning. But this is what it'll feel like. Again, around lunchtime or so, it'll be in the low to mid-20s for feels like temps, approaching 30 later in the day. So that's what you want to dress for heading out on Friday. Again, average high for us is 41. We will be below that mark. Many of us into the low and mid-30s, closing in on near 40 as we head south into Pennsylvania. Daytime highs on Saturday, warming to above average levels. The clouds thicken up. We have some rain developing late. Sunday will be quite warm, but it will be wet. As you can see there, into the 60s, nearly 20 degrees above average. And then the extended outlook keeps us pretty wet. Snow develops late Monday into Tuesday, maybe some accumulations, but definitely cooler heading into next week.
COVID cases are still at an elevated level, but they continue to decline nationwide, leading to more restrictions being lifted. Jonathan Sari has more from Atlanta.
We're out of the emergency situation.
It's the clearest sign yet that we've entered the endemic phase. The White House unveiling a new plan to combat COVID-19, focusing on preventing serious illness instead of containment. Right now, we're averaging about 58,000 cases every day, the lowest number since July. And this month, the Biden administration is opening one-stop sites at pharmacies, community health centers, and other providers where folks can get COVID tests and treatments for free.
We will have to contend with COVID at some level for some time to come. Thus, we will continue to invest in research to develop better treatments and next-generation vaccines.
More restrictions are now being lifted, including mask mandates in Philadelphia and New Orleans. But COVID deaths are still at a high level, more than 2,000 a day. Almost 10% of those are in Florida, where Governor Ron DeSantis has been making a big push to end mandates, even going so far as to scold students who choose to keep wearing masks.
Honestly, it's not doing anything, and we got to stop with this COVID theater. So if you want to wear it, fine, but this is ridiculous.
Meanwhile, the feds are evaluating whether to drop the mask mandate for public transportation. It's scheduled to end after March 18, and some are predicting a big uptick in travel when that happens.
There's still a lot of good deals out there, but definitely look to see some gains in ticket prices over the next few months.
The CDC also revising another important guideline, no longer recommending universal contact tracing for those who test positive.
A new study says you might stop the coronavirus infection by opening your fridge and reaching for one item. A research team of nutritionists says a protein found in cow milk may inhibit the SARS virus that causes COVID-19 infection. The scientists say bovine lactoferrin appears to work against microbes and pathogens and helps prop up antivirus defenses. Some review papers suggest using milk as a preventative or post-exposure treatment. The study is found in the Journal of Dairy Science. According to the American Red Cross, every 2 seconds, somebody in the U.S. needs blood. With March marking Red Cross Month, the nonprofit says they're in desperate need of more donors as COVID-19 has crippled the nation's blood supply. But federal restrictions on gay and bisexual men prevent many people who could give blood from doing so. Gary Baumgarten has more on the new study hoping to put an end to what gay rights advocates call discriminating practices.
Without the blood they need, hospitals may be forced to make tough decisions about patient care.
A national blood shortage crisis continues plaguing the American Red Cross. The nonprofit organization is responsible for providing 40% of the country's blood supply.
We have, in some instances, less than a day's supply of blood on hand.
But not everyone who wants to give blood can. Previously, the United States completely banned gay, bisexual, and queer men from donating over fears that they could spread HIV. The FDA has since reduced the total ban to a 3-month window in which men in those groups must abstain from having intercourse with other men before giving blood. But now a nationwide program called the Advanced Study is looking into possibly ending this restriction, opening the door for even more potential donors through a new series of questions and blood tests.
We're testing questions that are related to the potential risk of recent HIV acquisition. So these are questions like the number of sexual partners, types of sex, unprotected sex.
The research is expected to last until July, when the data will be given to the FDA for its consideration.
The study will be able to help the FDA determine if an individual risk-based approach could be adopted to select individuals, obviously based on their answers.
LGBTQ advocates say this move is key to helping end homophobia and the stigma surrounding their community.
As the war in Ukraine continues, experts say the threat of misinformation is on the rise. A push to rein in social media giants is growing in Washington. Mike Emanuel has the story.
People seeking to counter Russian propaganda are using social media to communicate with Russians cut off from the realities of Vladimir Putin's invasion, at a time when social media giants are taking some heat on Capitol Hill.
As Frances Haugen, who is here tonight with us, has shown, we must hold social media platforms accountable for the national experiment they're conducting on our children for profit.
Frances Haugen is a former Facebook manager turned whistleblower. She disclosed tens of thousands of internal documents to Congress and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Her revelations provided information about what the social media giant knew about its impact on teens' mental health and the scope of misinformation on Facebook. Now there are bipartisan calls in Congress for regulation.
I think transparency is something that both sides can get behind. Things also like protecting young people, protecting children on these platforms is also an area I think where we can cooperate. Making sure that young people's data is kept private.
On the other side, technology companies say a huge challenge is the patchwork of regulations from state to state.
And having a national standard on federal privacy, not just from a business perspective, but for consumers, so that when I drive from my home to go see my parents in another state, I know my privacy protections remain the same everywhere I go.
There's a fine line to walk here. One person's smart regulation is another person's censorship. Part of the challenge for bipartisan lawmakers seeking to regulate big tech.
Amazon is planning to shutter all 68 of its retail bookstores, pop-up shops, and 4-star stores in the U.S. and U.K. The news marks a turning point for a company that started out as an online bookseller, disrupting business for brick-and-mortar stores like Borders and Barnes & Noble. The Seattle-based company said it plans to focus more on its Amazon Fresh, Whole Foods Market, and Amazon Go grocery and convenience stores, in addition to cashierless checkout concepts. Another ongoing focus will be Amazon Style, a new line of fashion stores. Closure dates for Amazon's retail stores will vary by location. The company will make customers aware via in-store signage. The future may not be so distant after all. Kevin Cork has an inside look at the new groundbreaking experience, giving folks a taste of what life could be like in the year 2071.
It's one of the closest things to traveling in time. The new Museum of the Future in Dubai is transporting visitors half a century away to the year 2071. The 7-story museum lets folks experience life on board high-tech spaceships, where experts predict scientists will be studying how to harness renewable energy from the moon.
It's a very agile and living museum.
Visitors can also venture through the Library of Life, where instead of books, officials say people will have access to thousands of DNA samples from plant and animal species, offering clues on how to mend ecosystems ravaged by decades of climate change.
Our hope is that visitors will leave feeling happy, hopeful for a positive future, and realizing that there are many positive solutions.
But even though the future is expected to be high-tech, officials also believe that life 50 years from now will be heavily centered on disconnecting from our gadgets, with the museum even boasting a meditation spa.
Humans are the most important element in our past and our present, and will remain the most important factor for our future. So we must focus on the health and mental health of humans.
Officials say they can only predict what the future will have in store for us all, adding that the museum will actually be constantly evolving, hosting panels with leading scientists and engineers to help humanity shape the future we all desire.
We want to leave you with a smile. A food-delivering robot becomes a friendly part of the UCLA campus. The Starship Technologies robots are the latest addition to the Westwood, California campus, dancing, smiling, playing music, and of course delivering food to busy college students. The autonomous bot saves students time and saves the environment, with the company noting a savings of tons of CO2 so far. But most of all, the Starship robots have become a part of the university's pride. The robots are currently strolling around and delivering food on more than a dozen college campuses here in the States. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right back here next time.